Welcome to What the Frac. We are your fractional team, and today we break down marketing trends, strategies, and tactics in 30 minutes or less so that you can do the fun stuff like be creative. Hi, welcome. Hi, Tamara.
Hey, welcome to What the Frac Live.
You know, Tamara, one of the questions that we're always thinking about and we're always talking about is operations. And I think that it's a big, mystery for most business owners on how they can be more operationally strategic, how that works into growth. And so today, I am super excited to have Jose Delgado here. I've worked with Jose a little bit over the last year. I see how great of a COO he is. Just a little background on Jose. He has over 20 years of experience in international operations and marketing development across various industries. He excels in scalability, continuous improvement, and global operations, which I think is going to be a big topic that we're going to talk about. And for the past 7 years, he's been at Anequim, where he's been helping grow and drive services, property management solutions, continuous improvement. He has made Anequim, has been recognized on the top Inc. 5000 list 3 consecutive years and achieving 10 times marketing and revenue goals across multiple industries. So, I mean, totally excited to speak with you today on operations, growth, all the questions that everyone is thinking. So thanks for joining us, Jose.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, being a COOs are like the heroes behind the scenes that no one really appreciates until things go totally haywire, right? Like, I feel like COOs, and I'll have you explain a little bit about, what the role is. They are the glue that keeps things going and sound. And yet, so often we don't talk to you. So I can't wait to hear from you. What can you explain to everybody what a COO does?
I loved your description, so I'm gonna go with that. But just a little bit of context, just in case. I believe the execution part is probably the biggest or the most important element to it. We come together, we have a vision where you know what we're trying to go for the year. We know where we want to be 3-5 years ahead. But what really matters is next week. How is that vision going to be communicated? How is that vision going to be executed? Not in 6 months, not in a year. It starts with the now. I believe that is my role. I believe that is how I need to focus and structure my year. If we want to accomplish something in a year, it starts now. It starts in Q1, setting it up for Q2, for Q3. If I have to do anything in Q4, I missed the mark. I didn't do my homework. That's very general, but that's how I would describe at least my role at the moment.
And I think that for COOs, it changes, right, as the company grows. So like if you have a company of 3 people, it's going to be a lot different than a company of 1,000 people. Is that correct? Like, are you kind of dealing with the teams and the processes on a day-to-day?
It does change. I believe the biggest change, the communication with the CFO or the president of finance or the CEO, our manager, etc. With those individuals is very similar, small and big. We want to execute. Hopefully, we have the same type of structure and form to execute. Probably the biggest difference to answer your question would be the scalability. 3 versus 10 versus 100 versus 1,000. I've never been in an environment where we grew so much as in we have in Anequim. So it's pretty fresh in my mind. I thought I was done the first year and then the second year, and then I feel like I'm still doing a lot of the things that I was doing in year 1, which is communicating, which is making sure that we're aligned, making sure that it's not at the same scale, but you still want to somehow reach to that person that just got into the company. even though they might never speak to me or I might never see them or get to collaborate one-on-one, but I have to make sure that whatever it is that we're trying to do, it is somehow communicated to those individuals as well. Great question. Yeah, it made me think of how exactly the difference lies, and that's probably the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that as companies grow, so often the leadership are not relevant to the new hire that comes in, and so making sure, you know, bringing in a COO who's really not just thinking through how do you scale it, what the day-to-day, what the in the weeds are, but also how do we make sure that the company culture is on par, that people are understanding the vision and how to move forward is really important. And I guess that kind of brings us into like hiring, right? That seems like a very big part of your job, and understanding teams and the culture and hiring. Can you explain a little bit about how you think through, like, what is your philosophy on hiring as a company grows?
Needless to say, or maybe it makes sense, but scaling so quickly, we have to hire fast. We have to make decisions pretty quickly. We don't want to micromanage. That's the last thing you want to do when scaling. So the communication is the big part, and it starts at the beginning on the hiring and the first interview. I'm still part of a lot of interviews, and what I am looking for, even though those individuals in many cases are not going to be reporting to me, I want to get to know them, their personality. What is it that they like? What is it that drive them? What is it that they, and I always ask, I don't ask at that point that they get to me, I don't ask for any professional questions in terms of skill set. If they got to that point, I'm sure they're already qualified to be there. What I'm looking for is that extra sparkle, energy, drive, chemistry with the team, to see if that's what I'm looking for. That's what I hope. And what I try to get away from it is, what is it that is going to remind me of this individual from the very, very beginning? Why are they here? Why are they interested in working with us? And I try to keep a couple of pieces of information for the long term, for when I see them again in the future, when they made something great, they created something great, they had an idea. I can remember where that spark might come from. And what I try to do is I try to use that as a point of reference for others. There's always something to learn from others, from the young, from the entry level, from the people because those are the individuals that are super hungry, and they don't know no limits. So I love that. So I'm trying to capitalize on that. Like, keep that energy, keep that wanting to do, and nothing is impossible, because some of us might have lost it, already got a few bruises along the way. We need you. So I try to use them in that, if that makes sense.
Tamara,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
was going to say, what I love so much about that is that so often when you hear a company that is as big or has grown as fast as Anequim, you get a lot of people who want to like hide in the backgrounds and not be noticed. And I feel like the key to success is finding those A players. And we're hearing a lot more CEOs and COOs talking about A players, and talking about, if you're not Netflix, the CEO of Netflix just put out a memo saying to all department heads, if you have someone in your department who you're not willing to fight for, then they need to go, right? Because they're not an A player. And so what Jose is saying there is like, maybe we need to make an impression on our, C-level executives, and that maybe that's what's growing a company culture. I love that. But I'm sure you had a thought about that, Tamara.
Yeah, well, it's also about bringing your personality right into your work, your passions, what you want to accomplish, not just like, I'm here to do tasks, give me something, right? And I think what I've been really curious about over the last few years is how to craft dynamic teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your team is how you excel. It's not just the one person that you're hiring. Hopefully you're hiring into a team, like you said, and there's got to be that spark that brings them together. So I'm curious how you approach that. Like, I've heard of people doing personality assessments. I've heard of, different types of team interviewing sessions. Is there something that you see, that you like, that you do, that really kind of cultivates this special hiring for team orientation?
We do all of the above. We do the personality test. We do all of those things. But yeah, of course, I'm going to be honest. I take those with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I am looking for the chemistry. I am looking for their interest, for their drive, for their passion, for what is it that they want to do when they grow up. That's my first question. It doesn't matter where they're at. What is it that you really want to do for you? I'll help you, hopefully, if we're the right match, I'll help you get there, and you, in the meantime, help us get over here. And I think this is where you were going with your comment. Yes, the task is the thing that needs to get done, and that's a given. You're here in the interview because you can do the task. But what I'm mostly interested in is, what else can you do? What else can we do together, based on what your interests are, what your drive is, and what your skill set, special skill set is. Not just the thing, not just the task, not just your degree. I am looking for that. I'm already looking for 2-3 steps ahead. And I think that's where you were going. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm assuming that they're going to do a good job in terms of the task. I have to assume that.
Yeah.
Nicole, what I used to do, or what I still do, but one of the things that I always do with my team and those that I'm mentoring is every 6 months, I make them come to me with their 3-month, 3-year, and 5-year goals. What they want to accomplish in and out of work, right? Usually out of work, because it's like, where do you want to be? How can I help you get there? And how can we get those tasks on your plate that will excite you to get to where you want to be in 5 years eventually? So I think that's, those sort of tactics are so critical.
Well, and I think
I may.
Oh, yep. Jose,
sorry,
go for
if
it.
I may, right there, the one twist I do when I hire someone, or when I'm interviewing, or when doing reviews, how much do you want to make next year? I already know what you did. I already know what happened. I already know the review is pretty much done at the point. When you do a review, it's not a whole lot that you can change. You just talk about it. But I'm very, very interested in that next 3 months, 6 months. So every review, every year, I'm asking them, just 1, to level set, and 2, because I get to squeeze in my new expectations, and I get the commitment. That's the trick. You get a commitment because they want to tell you all the great things that they can accomplish. And we all believe it. We all believe that we can do a lot in the next 12 months because we're starting from scratch. So I take advantage of that, put it in writing, and then try to hold them to it. But more important, try to work with them so that they can accomplish that, so that they feel that that they did it. It was successful. And of course, they almost all the time they do. Because we're working together on their goals and our goals as a company.
I think that this is really important. Like, we're going to talk about like future proofing and global, talent and all those pieces. But I think at the foundation of it, what we're going to see, the trends we're going to see in the next 3 to 5 years, is that employees want to feel like they're part of the growth of the company. They want to have some ownership. They want to feel like the company cares about them. And I read an article with some data about how the majority of employees leave because they don't feel like the company cares, or that they don't have a ladder to success. And I know that the last company I worked for, in between some of my companies I started, I left because there was no ladder to success. I kept trying to push forward, to be better, to go further with them and help them. And they kept pushing me back at every level. Just do your job now. just do your job now. And what that happened was I then found space for me to grow outside of the company, right? So you start losing your key players because not only are you not getting the most out of them from their knowledge base and all of that, but you're also losing them because they're losing their interest and they're trying to find that in outside. And so what I've seen working with Jose is that you have implemented a really great review system that allows them to see how they can move up. How can they contribute more? How can they take their special skills? And it's not just based on performance right now, but it's based on how do you grow with the company. Have you seen that there's a lot of success in that?
It's a little bit early, but it's the second quarter. It hasn't been a full year of it being implemented. It was received well because of a couple of factors. One, there's transparency. Okay, this is where you're at compared to your peers. These are all the departments. Everybody's being measured the same way. These 10 elements: contribution, technical skill set, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it has the levels depending on the level of responsibility. 6 levels, 1 page, and you can answer it there pretty easily. So they know that their pay and level of responsibility already fits a profile that they feel very comfortable with because it makes sense. They agree to it from the beginning. When you do the review, you're talking about the next 2 levels. That's exciting. I mean, pay is exciting, of course. That should be a given. People should be getting paid well, per market or better. That should be a given. I try not to negotiate on salaries because we try to pay well. What I'm talking to them about and what they want to know is how much more they can make next year. But what's actually more interesting on a conversation is where they can get, how much they can push their intellect, their skill set, their level of responsibility. That's a much more interesting conversation for them and for us. I love having those conversations about team, and I'm our team's biggest cheerleader. I want them to succeed. Obviously, if they succeed, we succeed. That's it. That's my only focus. That should be our focus, to make sure that they have everything they need to be successful, because the results of the company will see it. It's pretty simple, I think.
You know, I want to ask you a question because it's a little bit controversial. So I was reading about how to craft, good teams. And I came across an article that was like, immediately fire someone who is not a team player or who is not, being productive on the team. Like, don't mince words, don't waste time, get rid of them, because they will drag your team down and you will lose, you could lose your team, you could lose income, you could lose your culture. And my knee-jerk reaction was, oh, how awful. Like, you've got to mentor people. You should give them second chances. You should put, this effort into, making it work. And more and more I thought about it, I was like, actually, that makes sense. They should find a better fit for them. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's 100% true in theory. Yes, if we were smart enough to know when that breaking point is, and that person doesn't need second chance or a third or a fourth, yes, it is true. The problem is knowing when that threshold is. We all have a bad day, a bad week, a bad month. We're human. We go through stuff. I subscribe to all the books. I subscribe to the Jack Welch. Doesn't matter, just 10%. Just cut them every year and they'll learn their lesson. And I came from that era, and it works to a certain extent. It works to a certain degree, in time frame and depending on what you want to do. But us coming from almost like a startup environment, couldn't afford to be firing people. And the very first project for Anequim was a big call center. In call centers, first one I've ever operated or opened or started. And everything, every single book was exactly about that. KPIs, measure, perform, or fire quickly. Measure, perform, or fire. And it wasn't the 20 years of experience that taught me this. It was these individuals, these young, hungry individuals that said, well, one person that stepped up and said, that supervisor doesn't know how to manage. That supervisor has never done the job that you're asking us to do, or this. It was a new industry, within the new industry, new systems. Fire that person and I'll take over. I'll show them how to do it. Something to that effect. And it worked. And once I was able to get to know the background, the story behind this individual that suggested, that's how I remember it. She said, she didn't say fire the person. She said she wanted an opportunity. She said it's nicer now, but we changed. We completely changed from the beginning for the first 3-4 months. And what I started doing, I started using then my experience, all of the analytical. I started looking at trends, started looking at variations, started looking at standard deviation per individual, per performance on the quality side. And all we started asking people is to perform a little bit above average as a team. That was the thing. We didn't need rock stars. We didn't need high performers. We just needed consistency is what we started to look for and focus on as a group. You do have your rock stars, and that's great, and you celebrate those. But what we implemented immediately, it's a mentorship program to get these individuals to train, develop, care about the team, care about the overall performance. And it was, for us, it was a big game changer. For me, it was it was probably one of the biggest lessons in my career, learning and seeing and working with these young individuals that were not that experienced, and work as a team, start collaborating. That was my very first year with Anequim and starting to build a team. And we didn't go like this in quality at all. We just consistently starting getting better. The dynamic within the team that created was probably the best part, more than just the quality getting a little bit better each time. It was the dynamic, it was the friendships, it was the leaderships. A lot of the leaders that we have now, 7 years later, are those people that started at Anequim 7 years ago in their early 20s. He's going to kill me, but I have to tell you this story. There's one individual, he's a manager. He's leading a big project now. And I'm sorry. They brought him to me. He came to my attention because he was always tired with the client that he had an assignment with. In fact, in one of the meetings, like this live meeting, he fell asleep. And it came to me. We were a small team. They came to me and they told me about him, and that's how I met him. I'm like, dude, what happened? Why did you fall asleep? And my initial reaction back to your question and to your point was, of course, let's get rid of him. We can't allow that. Well, long story short, I learned the background and I knew why he was falling asleep. He had 2 jobs and he was trying to get things done. And then I learned that he was actually a manager at another company, call center, in the past, and just things happen. And he ended up with this job. He ended up with us as a part-time and another job, and he was tired. We're human. So I actually hired him full time, gave him a raise, and I'm like, all right, do or die. Let's see what happens. And he's still with us. He's an amazing human. He's an amazing mentor. He's an amazing boss. He's all the things that we've been talking about. I love telling that story because he's the guy that fell asleep with a client.
These lessons that you have, these real life lessons and learnings. And it also makes it so much more difficult because now there's no cut and dry.
There's no. 25 years of reading books in every single airport around the world. And I'm like, now I know what I'm supposed to do. And then I come to a startup, like a real company, and try to get into an industry and grind and do all the things. And yeah, there's no one way of doing anything.
Yeah. This is, it's funny because you've mentioned so many things that are like puzzle pieces of different lessons, right? You have like the 1% better every day, right? The consistency of just getting 1% better every day. You have, hiring and mentoring from within, like Green Bay Packers. If you know anything about football, they very rarely trade for their players. They actually mentor them from their minor leagues and bring them up. And it's just like a process that's very like honorable within the league, right? You have the fact that we're bringing it back to human. So all of these pieces by themselves, people write books about each and every one of these pieces by itself. But when you bring it together, that's where this happens. And what I love also is that Anequim works in global remote teams, right? And what a lot of people would call outsourcing. There's a lot more to it with what you guys do with the compliance and making sure the pay grade is there and all of those pieces. But there's kind of this negative thought process around outsourcing or remote teams, especially right now. There's a lot of talk about whether to come back to the office, have in person, have remote, all of those pieces. But one of the things I've seen with Anequim is you guys are bringing it back to that human level where it's not just some person who is going to get kicked around for $2 an hour. They are real quality, like trained people who have skill sets that can bring your company to the next level. Do you want to talk a little bit about global teams and how you guys are bringing that remote human aspect to businesses?
Yes, of course. Thank you. My career was built on international operations. That was my career. It started right before I finished college in manufacturing and logistics across the border and cross borders, meaning automotive industry in aerospace, Canada, US, and Mexico, just kind of compliance, import, export, etc. And that's all I knew. I just knew of working with different countries is like working within different states, within different cities, within different neighborhoods. I didn't really see a difference after that. I grew up in other countries and moved back to the US for high school. So for me, it was normal to be working in different environments, collaborating with different teams. It's just a matter of the culture, understanding how they work versus how you work and how it can be a match, how you can take their skill set, their culture, their way of doing things, learning from it and collaborating and then making it work. Well, coming to Anequim, servicing mainly the property management industry, I did not realize there were industries out there that were still not really attuned to or heavily working with outsourcing groups with other countries, taking advantage of labor pool. Not the cost. The cost is, sure, if the cost is lower, that should be gravy on top. That's the cherry on top. That shouldn't be the reason. You don't hire someone because it's cheaper. You hire talent that's the number one rule. I was a little bit surprised by this big industry that wasn't really taking advantage of it. The difference to me was the shocking part to me was having to explain it. So I struggled back then. I struggle still today to say, well, it's the same. It's human factor. And they have ambition, they have goals, they have get to know the individual, and that's it. Everybody is in need or want of an opportunity to showcase what they can bring to the table. Where they come from, does it really matter? Well, no, the answer is no. It doesn't matter where they come from, because someone that we hire in Mexico, in Florida, in Arizona, in California, and in Nebraska, in Philippines, in India, and Peru, and Dominican Republic. That's all places that we hire from. They all come with a history, with potential, with training. They all come with concerns about where they want to be and how they can get there. How to bring them together, there's not a huge difference. Probably the biggest difference is the getting to know each other and trusting each other and learning how to communicate online. That's probably the biggest difference. Being in person, if you were in person meeting and working with someone locally or in another country, you wouldn't notice a huge difference. They smile, they get upset, they get excited. We're all human. It's naturally speaking, we act the same, very similar, react to more or less the same things.
Well, and I'm certain there's a lot of business owners who would love to take advantage of building a global team, right? There's so many advantages to it, especially if your product is global or can go into new markets. So building out expertise in these different markets is very valuable. What is one piece of advice you would give a business owner if they are trying to build out their global team?
I'll tie it to the previous answer. If you get to know those individuals locally, if you open yourself to the opportunity that we all have to learn from everybody, that you're not bringing something to the table. You're actually taking advantage of an opportunity somewhere else. And you're not there to teach them. You're not there to give them a job. You're there to collaborate and then open a business relationship, open an opportunity for both of you. You don't go there to explore. You don't go there to let me show them how it's done. A lot of these individuals in other countries, when it comes to high tech, when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to organization, when it comes to doing things very, very quickly and working long hours and hard and being committed, we have a lot to learn in many cases. So if you go with the open mind of trade, of collaborating, of enhancing opportunities for you, for them, and making it a win-win, I would start with that, trying to understand their background, trying to understand what it is that they want, what it is that excites them, just like the interview question. What is it that they want? How much do you want to make next year? Listen first and then sell whatever you need to sell.
Yeah. And I think in marketing, especially, like, so often I see, oh, we want to expand to Spanish speakers, or we want to expand to communities of Asian immigrants, right? And they just go in and they just try to market it the same way they did to, Americans, or, and they don't take into effect like culture and language barriers and things like that. And there are a lot of really great stories. Starbucks, actually, the CEO of Starbucks talks about going into China and how they went in thinking they can just start Starbucks in China. And what they found was, because of the culture, young people wouldn't interview for jobs without their parents approving it. And so they had to actually build a program that educated the parents on how the jobs were beneficial to their kids, right? And so going into cultures, like I worked with a company that worked in banking and financial saving. We were going into Spanish speaking cultures, and they don't have a word for piggy bank, right? Like they just don't have the same kind of cultural acceptance of speaking about money, things like that. And so having people who understand the culture and who understand the language can expand your product out to so many different spaces that you just can't expand that quickly to.
It's extremely, extremely important. Understanding, knowing where they're at, meeting them where they are, learning from them first, in order to and see what connection you can have first, versus just maybe dumping a product or dumping a service or dumping, and you'd be surprised. You actually can benefit tremendously by doing it their way.
Yeah, I think that so we're I know that I could talk about this all day, and we're kind of coming at a time spot where we normally quit. But I have a question. So I think a lot of people, when they think outsourcing, when they think global teams, they think of like VAs, they think of like really easy admin tasks. What are some of the like advanced pieces that you've seen? Maybe a story of a remote professional that has started kind of in that space, but has worked their way up. Have you seen them like kind of take over and help grow companies?
Many of them. There's many cases in the very short 7 years. We have individuals that have started with some of our clients and are literally taking over, running their offices. Not because they take over, but they help them expand and grow. And they took over a branch. They took over a location. They took over a P&L and level of responsibility. Anything and everything is doable. You have a lot of talent out there. That's the key. What you're looking for is talent. What you're looking for is that energy and that chemistry with your office. That's what you're looking for. And it can be found with a kid down the street. It can be found in another state. But you have to be open that it can also be found in another country. We have probably hired, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 people. A lot of them go to contracts with the clients. A lot of them move on to different careers. A lot of them start their own. We have currently about 1,300 full-time employees working on projects, and it is pretty amazing. I can go on and on and on about the stories. I can go on and on about how they came to us. Most of them come to us, or they used to. I don't see it much anymore. VA or outsourcing, they used to come to us for a part-time or a temporary job, and not thinking anything of it. But I think that our model or our culture in the company has made them reconsider Anequim and say, well, actually, I can build a career here. So never mind, can I stay another year? One quick story would be one of those rock stars, one of many rock stars. My first interview came to me through another manager that said, I don't know, I have this person super, super smart, but I don't know, you should meet her. And you tell me if we should hire her. And sure enough, right off the bat, she was like, whoa, another interview? I'm coming into a call center. Why so many interviews? I can do whatever you guys need me to do. I'm going to be graduating in a couple months. Just need a part-time job. Am I going to be hired or not? What's this other interview thing going on? And I was blown away. I'm like, yes, you're hired. Of course, we're dumb. Yeah. If clearly you are, there was more to that conversation, but clearly there was the energy, and there was smart, very, very smart, very sharp individual that just wanted, either you're going to give me a shot or not. You are wasting your time. And that was quite a lesson for us. Needless to say, happy to say, She's running one of our biggest divisions right now, 5 years later, and she owns like a huge P&L, and I don't think she yet knows how smart she is yet. She continues to impress everybody, even herself. So that's super exciting. That's super exciting to see, and we have many stories like that, which I love.
I just love hearing your passion for people. It's really, really nice and refreshing to hear the thought that you put into your people and process.
Yeah.
As I told my board, we had board meetings a couple of weeks ago. I use the addressing everybody. Like they are the smart ones. They're the ones that have the energy that we don't have. So the more that we can nurture that, the more that we can support that energy, the more that we can support that that group of individuals that all they're looking for is just an opportunity. That's all they're looking for, to showcase what they have. And I guess my last point would be young people. Young people get a really bad rap from my peers, from my age group. And I believe it is us that we need to learn how to work with them. They process information, they process communication, they can teach us a lot of things. They move with information so fast that I believe it's us that need to adapt a little bit to be able to work with them better.
Yeah. We started this. I'm looking at our document that we always have for each of our guests on here with questions, and all the questions were around things around like compliance and how do you get into global teams and all these questions that we no. What I was going to say is that what's so good about this is that we ended up in a topic around people. And I think that, yes, global teams moving forward, we are moving into a global world, a global economy. We always were location neutral, all of my companies, because I thought the idea of hiring someone who happened to live within 25 miles of where I decided to put my office was always really dumb, because there's so much talent out there and there's so many people out there. Mm-hmm. And I think that coming back to the human experience is really important. We're seeing a shift in SaaS, right? A few years ago, SaaS was like huge. You had to be a SaaS company in order to get investment, in order to get VCs, all of these pieces. And one of the things that we're seeing is a shift in SaaS where they're coming back to like managed services and like the human experience. We saw a shift in marketing going from all digital marketing to ABM and account-based marketing, right? We're seeing a shift in sales going back to the human experience. And why wouldn't we go back to that in hiring and in teams and in growth? And I think that we talk about growth a lot in the numbers, the ROI, the KPIs, what are the tactics, all of those pieces. But what I've really got validated today was that growth really comes from the team that you build and the people that you give the opportunity to. And yes, my dad always used to say, like, you may not be able to afford the person you're hiring, but can you afford not to hire them, right? And so I think that business owners should really think more about, what are we building? We're building a company that is human-centric. Are we really building it that's human-centric, and making sure that we're kind of going in that direction? I don't know, that I'm very jazzed right now from this conversation.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, if you do have questions about compliance, or you need a company, you're thinking about going global, or you are thinking about hiring, outsourcing. I know, Jose, you said property management is your guys' main industry. Do you guys work outside of property management?
We do. We have other industries. We started with property management, and then they're vendors, and then they're buddies, and then we started dentist community. We just onboarded a franchise of trucking company. Yes, we are branching out to whomever is looking for talent. And in terms of compliance, if this helps just to add some technical value to the conversation, just hire whomever you're going to hire, do it right, pay their taxes, make sure they have their benefits. All of our employees have full benefits, retirement plans. We comply with laws in the US or wherever we are hiring 100%. And by the way, it's not cheap. If you're hiring and the process and the cost is really low, something's off. In other countries, it's not that cheap. Going to Mexico is not that cheap. We're literally doing for talent, and we want to provide full benefits. We want to provide a career, which is kind of what at the very beginning when we realized that we were building careers for people long term. We want to continue to do that, and that's who you want to partner with. That's who you want to partner with. So whomever you end up hiring, whoever you end up partnering with, make sure that structure of compliance and well-being. We have advocacy programs for our team, just like we have client managers that handhold the clients. We do exactly the same for employees. There shouldn't be a difference.
So if you're looking for outsourcing, if you're looking for global teams, I would recommend, I'm a little biased. I work with Anequim, so I'm a little biased, but I would recommend finding or at least talking and starting a conversation with them and seeing where that can go. Tamara, I'm jazzed to get back to work and try to figure out how to build a global business here.
Yeah, no, I love global teams. I've really since 2022, I've only worked with global teams. So
love it. Perfect.
I love it. So preaching to the choir over here. And how can people follow you, Jose?
Oh my gosh. Help me out here, Nicole.
Yeah. You can find us at Anequim. I know. Anequim.net. If you want to figure out some of our services, LinkedIn's always the best place. So we're posting lots of things around team building on LinkedIn. Jose has his own LinkedIn, which hopefully soon we will be posting lots of his great insights, because this conversation could go on for hours if we let it. And just reach out. Either DM or fill out a form, and one of our team members can get back to you.
Awesome. And if you want more insights on growing your business, follow us at What the Frac. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on LinkedIn. We're on all the social media. So wherever you go, just give us a subscribe, and you'll be getting tips, tricks, our insights every day are coming out. And every Thursday, we are here live with an expert who will have great advice on how to grow your business sustainably. Well, Nicole, that's What the Frac Live today. Jose, thank you for joining us.
Thank you both so much. Thank you.